If you found yourself each week trying to figure out which Sorare tourney to put your best team in or split different teams up and been scratching your head, well, maybe this video is for you. Hey everyone, this is Sorare Strategy. It's a video channel that I'm dedicating to sharing the research that I'm putting in to help myself and hopefully help you in setting your lineups, in being able to analyze and forecast player performance to make better trades and all of that. I say analytics, maybe with a grain of salt. I think this is maybe kind of an every person's analytics. I'm not a data scientist. I don't know if this will be deep analytics, but it'll certainly be the types of processes, the types of things that I go through to make better decisions. And I figured rather than hide them in spreadsheets and notes in a book and things like that, why don't I share them each week, and we can all kind of learn together and slowly get better. So this will grow. This is the first video. I'll take on new topics, I'll explore new areas. And of course, the great thing with data is as you build upon it, you sort of get more and more robust, more and more refined insights. And so watching something like this each week, we'll be able to go back to previous things that we've learned and build from there. At the end of the day, though, I'm just kind of an average Joe at this. I'm not an expert by any stretch. There are other folks that maybe are portrayed a little more as the top dogs in the game and things like that. I've kind of a middle of the road team. I've got, some nice players here. I've invested some money, but I mean, I haven't won a whole lot, and I'm really just learning. So my goal here is to kind of be at the same level that maybe you're at, maybe one step ahead, who knows, and really just share that journey so that, we're kind of on the same wavelength, as opposed to me being positioning myself as some kind of expert. Okay. With that, let's get started. If you like this, please like the video, subscribe, share it, things like that. I'd love to grow the channel. Hit me up on Discord. Beauty is my my name here, or you can check out my cards, things like that. Happy to chat. So, the first thing that that I wanted to dive into was lineup setting. And if you're like me, maybe you've gone through this each week and you have difficulty deciding whether to, put a best team, your best lineup in, say, Global All-Star, knowing that it's wide ranging and you can, pull your cards from all over the world. Or is it better to, but of course, there's a lot of people in these divisions. There's the most people in these divisions, versus maybe splitting your team up and putting, maybe you have a couple, a decent under 23 lineup or a decent Challenger Europe lineup. But of course, they have far less registrants each, and the competition is smaller in each of these each week. So is it better to have your best team in sort of a highly saturated tournament versus, or is it better to have you kind of spread it out and maybe have a better chance? So I looked at this in this area. So I decided to make a bit of a spreadsheet on this. What I did was I took all of these kind of key tournaments. And I'm really only talking about Division 4 and 3. I think that's where most people play. I don't have the cards to be in 2 or 1. They're miles ahead of me. So I started by just building this out. So here's all the divisions. These are the number of people that get paid out in these areas. So Global All-Star, if you finish in Div 4, if you finish in the top 130, you get paid in some form. You get paid a card. Let's set aside the Ethereum that you get for hitting certain levels. We'll come back to that. At Div 3, if you finish 50th or below, you get a card as well. And as you can see, all the way down. So Global U23, it's less than Global All-Star. It's a few more positions of payouts compared to these ones, and then it kind of normalizes at these champion and challenger levels, where it's 65 in level 4 and top 25 in level 3. What I started to do, and I've only done this for the last 4 weeks, and I'm going to kind of add to this, but I'm also going to roll, I might have a 4-week kind of rolling analysis, because, ultimately these numbers are changing as people are moving into the system, or as registration is growing and things like that. So data from, say, 3 months ago or something may not even be relevant. So let's just look at, over the last 4 weeks, the number, so actually I'll start here. So the number of participants in each of these. So just this past weekend, there were the most ever, almost 7,000 people in Global All-Star 4, 1588 in Div 3 and so on. You can see this. And then over here, this is basically, this is the points that the 130th placed person scored. And then, the 50th person got 377 here. So I built that out, and then I built it out here for, the weekend prior. And of course, I'm not really doing midweek because it sort of messes with things. It depends how many games are available. We know that weekends, there's sort of the most games, and pretty much every team is playing close to. So that gives us a fairly normalized data set here. And then, of course, 2 weeks ago, same thing, and about 4 weeks ago. First off, what's interesting is just seeing like the trends. So just looking at these numbers from participants from 5,800 to, now like 1,000 increase in a month. And you can kind of see which of these are, we could certainly chart it, but, this is pretty stable. The U23, 452 a month ago, now 465. So, roughly the same number of people. But meanwhile, what's this one? Champion Europe has been gaining from 340 up to 418. Challenger Europe, it's maybe a little bit of gain, but a little steadier. America is actually quite steady. I thought that this would be really sharply gaining, but it's actually quite steady from a participant point of view. But Asia has actually really surged up to 415. So in level 3 and 1406. So, as you can see, it's essentially Champion Asia Div 4 was the fourth most participated tournament this past weekend. And from a Div 3 point of view, it's the I guess it was the third, almost the second most participated. So first, that just gives you a sense of like the pace at which participants are moving into different tournaments, and just where a lot of the interest is. But to take that further, then what I did was I went into the average winning point. So I basically just averaged out these 4 weeks. So to get into that 130th spot, you need about 352. You can kind of see down. So first, just looking at this column, you can see that some of the easiest tournaments to go into is, or at least from the lowest number of points that you need to do to get some kind of reward, is this one is Global U23. You only need 327. Div 4, of course, and Champion America and Champion Asia. So this is interesting. A lot of people are flocking to the Champion Asia group, and it actually is the lowest amount of points that you need to score a card. And then, of course, I took the average participants, so just averaged out the number of people in each of these. And, again, you can see Asia quite surging pretty well. This tournament, which is Champion Europe, is really the lowest attended, which was really surprising to me. I would have thought a lot of people had cards. A lot of people were seeking cards from the big clubs, the big leagues, and but it's actually has the least attended. And then, of course, simply by dividing these, we can see what the chance of winning is. And this I found really, really interesting. So in Global All-Star, you can see that, it's a minuscule chance of winning compared to the others. So by entering your best lineup in there, you're probably not doing yourself a favor. You have a pretty low shot at winning. If you are going to go into one of these, you might argue that it's best to just go into Global All-Star 3 with your Div 3 with your best lineup, because it's almost a double. You almost double up your chance of winning. Now, of course, we said this earlier, but there is also the Ethereum that you earn. So what I think a smart strategy here is to put in a lineup that you feel quite confident that you'll hit the 250 point threshold to get that Ethereum, but that it may not be your best lineup overall. That maybe there's not as much point in getting putting in a lineup that can score 300, 320, 350 if it's not if it's hardly even going to get into the winner's circle. But as you can see with these, we see that some of the other leagues just have a greater chance of winning. The U23 division is actually maybe a harder one to win. But again, we see this Champion Europe is really the Champion Europe Div 4 is the best chance from a Div 4 point of view, really, of all of these to win. And so if you have decent cards there, it's really worth throwing your hat in the ring. again, with the surge kind of in participants in Asia, that's actually brought the chance of winning down a little. And then you see sort of Challenger Europe and Champion America, which are these two, also quite strong. But, again, I'd argue that just as we were talking up here, if you have a team that you think is reasonable to compete in a level 3, you might want to go in. So this is Challenger Europe, for example, but this is also Champion America. It might be wise to put your team into one of those, knowing that, okay, you need about 27 more points, but you have a greater chance of winning if you can get that 27 more points. And of course, the payout is slightly better. The cards are slightly, the card thresholds are better. So to me, that's a reasonable payoff across 5 cards, 27 points. So you need 5-ish points each of an increase. That may be too much for you to justify, but it's something to think about. Here it's around the same 24-point difference, but you're getting 1.2% gain in winning, and again the reward is actually slightly better in terms of the card tier that you'll get. So, this was really helpful for me. In a future one, I'm gonna show you how I actually then took this and applied it to different lineup variations, and actually kind of stress tested and crunched the numbers of, okay, if I went into this one, I would need X number of points per player versus if I went into this one and things like that. But in a nutshell, what I've really done is I've put in a team that I think can only get 250-ish points for this one, and then I've tried to throw a strong team into Champion Europe, and then get a little daring by playing into Division 3 Challenger Europe, and potentially even Div 3 Champion America as well. So I should have locked the column here, so I didn't have to keep. You'd be able to see it each time. So sorry about that. But anyways, that's my first little bit of insight and a bit of research. I mean, there's so much more we can do with this. I could start to break down not just the winning points for 130th place, 75th place, etc., but actually break it down into certain tiers within that. Something for me to work toward. So thanks for following and listening, and we'll talk to you again soon.